I'm gonna find a couple of videos first from Africa Diaspora Channel, news channel. The first place I heard about Danny Collins, and then I'll just play some more videos as I draw. I'm gonna try to finish tonight, so I know how that go. So already I didn't finish Aaron on demand. Why is it so dark? That is very dark. Let's turn the green light on. Don't know if it makes a difference, but didn't finish Aaron on demand. But I picked this picture here to draw. Okay, now let's start the video. 12:56 a.m. But did he lie? That's what we're watching.
Racism that still exists in 2023. Watch this. A lot of people ask me, what was my aha moment? What made me change my perspective? And it's when I saw this. So a black person in the United States during the Jim Crow era faced second-class citizenship, disenfranchisement, barriers to voting, barriers to education, barriers to employment, and barriers to housing. Then we had the 1964 Civil Rights Act and the 1965 Voting Rights Act, which stated we can no longer do any of this. We can no longer discriminate based on race. So in 2023, what is the only group of people that we can legally discriminate against? We can legally relegate to second-class citizenship, create barriers to voting, barriers to education, barriers to employment, barriers to housing. If you answer convicted felon, you are absolutely correct. In 2023, the convicted felon is the only group of people that we can legally do all this to. Now, do you believe it's a coincidence that 1 in 3 black males carry this label as convicted felon, as opposed to 1 in 17 white males? If you answered yes to that question, let's take a look at what's happened since the dismantling of the Jim Crow laws. We've had a 700% increase in our prison population. We've gone from 300,000 inmates to as high as 2.3 million. Now, I do believe we're back down to about 1.8 million today. We had the law and order agenda, which was an increase in police spending and a decrease in school funding, which created the school to prison pipeline. We also had the war on drugs, which we now know was a war on people. We had the 1986 Anti-Drug Abuse Act, and we had the 1994 Crime Bill. Now, the 86 Anti-Drug Abuse Act differentiated between rock cocaine and powder cocaine, which we know predominantly impacted the black community. In the 94 Crime Bill created harsher sentences, lengthier sentences, and minimum mandatories. We also know that black people make up 53% of all exonerations, 69% of exonerations for drug crimes, and they're 7 times more likely to be wrongly convicted. So when I seen all of this, I realized that racism in this country never ended. We have a systemic issue. So as you saw and heard him say, that was my aha moment. That's when I realized that I had to change my position and, concede that, yeah, racism is still alive even to this day. Now, the conversation I saw regarding this was, there's black people there, getting excited because it's a white man saying this and we've been saying this and blah, 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 blah. Let me thing. Now y'all mad because black people are excited that a white man is breaking it down. And if you ask me, he did a pretty good job because there's a lot of black people that cannot break it down like that and do not know all there is to know in regards to what he said. So I don't have a problem with that. And I don't think anybody should have a problem with it. I mean, was he lying? Because it'd be different if he was lying, right? If he was lying, then all right, we'll have an issue with it. Like, why are y'all, big up in this white man? If he lying, but he wasn't lying, y'all point out something that he lied about. So we as black people, we need to get out of the silliness and we need to get aligned with the truth. If what that man was saying is true, who cares if he was white? You know what I'm saying? Let's get this truth.
And
Let's
help
do
those
something
that
about
are
it.
doing
And let's say,
something,
hey,
help
you know
them
what?
out.
Good. Thank you, Daddy. Thank you for putting that out there. Keep up the good work because the more of your people that you reach with the truth, then that's better off for us. So y'all tell me what you think of that. And for more insightful commentary, please subscribe to this channel and my channel, the B2K Show.
Okay, hold on.
Companies of all sizes use BigQuery to uncover new insights from their data.
There's another one. I got a YouTube channel.
We are back with another episode of Locked In with Ian Vick. On today's episode, we have a super exciting guest, Danny Collins,
See
who
how I
in his
liked?
early 20s is drafted
You see how I watched this video and then I liked it, and now I'm gonna leave a
spirals
comment.
out of control and loses everything, resulting in spending nearly 10 years in a Florida state prison. Thank you guys for tuning into the show. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, and share. And sit back, relax, and enjoy Locked In with Ian Vick. Danny Collins, welcome to the show today. Super excited to have you on. We first met in Pensacola back in April at the National Reentry Association conference that I'm now a board member of. And I met you and some of the other guys, and I knew we had to get you on the show. I'm glad you made the trip out here today.
I appreciate you having me.
Gonna be throwing softballs, curveballs, baseballs, the whole nine yards.
We need a lot of them in there.
Awesome, man. All right, let's start at the beginning of your story. You have a super crazy story. This is definitely gonna be one of our longer interviews. So let's start at the beginning. Where are you from, and what's childhood like growing up for you?
I was raised in Fort Pierce, Florida. I was basically, my stepmom was my biological mother. There was a time that I was playing basketball in front of my house. These two girls came riding by on a bicycle. One girl pointed to the other girl and said, "Daniel, that's your sister. That's Rebecca. That's your sister." And they just kept on riding. And I didn't say anything. So I go in the house, don't say anything. A couple weeks later, I go to school, and the same girl comes up to me. She says, "Daniel, you don't know me, but my name's Rebecca, and I'm your sister." And I panicked. I ran down the hallway, didn't know what to say. Never communicated to my parents. There wasn't much communication in my household. But when I was 9, I got a Little League, a birth certificate I had to take to the Little League coach. And on the birth certificate, I read it, and it said that my biological mother's name was Yolanda Fields, but the lady I was calling my mom, her name was Jamie. So the names didn't match up. And it was the first time that I really realized, but at 9 years old, you don't know how to really process that stuff. So I remember going to my Little League baseball coach and saying, "One day I'm going to grow up and play professional baseball for the Braves, so maybe my mom would want me." And to come to find out, I had two sisters with my biological mother. That's still to this day that I never met. But that was like a big part of my life because I always had this resentment towards my family, towards my mother, even towards my stepmom, for not knowing her. You know, like.
But that came like later on in life. What about like early on? Who was raising you? Your real father?
My real father.
And
So,
the stepmother who was, you always thought was your mother at first?
yeah, so that's who raised me. That's who, you know, we lived paycheck to paycheck. We didn't grow up rich.
What did they do
That's
for
how I
work?
live.
So my dad worked. My dad dropped out of law school when he had me, and when my biological mother left. So this is what I found out years later, but I didn't know at the time. So he ended up dropping out of law school, and he came home and worked at a grocery store. He ended up being like a grocery store manager, and through time he ended up working at for Kraft Foods. So he ended up working for them for like 25, 30 years. And my stepmom worked at a lumber yard, still to this day, works there. And I call her my mother, but she was there. She was the only mother I knew.
She was the mother figure.
She was the mother figure in my household, but she was super strict. Like, I used to get my ass beat if I made B's on my report card. So, like, I was a straight A student. There was a time, like, I had a B on a report card, and I tried to, like, fudge it myself, and it was so bad. It was so obvious, right? But that's how scared I was. And sure enough, I ended up getting my ass whooped behind it. But
Yeah, I remember the days when the report cards would like come in the mail or get handed directly to the parent at like the parent-teacher conferences. Now I think it's different. Like I remember at the end of high school, I would get my grades printed out,
Yeah.
and it never got like sent to my parents. I'm sure it's all different now.
so I remember I had like the report card. It was like big. It had all your classes with the grades, but then down here it would have like the behavior. So like my grades were always straight A's, but my behavior was always unsatisfactory. They had satisfactory, in, and
Oh,
unsatisfactory.
you gotta be
And
right.
so like I was a bad kid. Like I was always in trouble. But I compensated for that because I did very well in school.
What do you think that was from? Like, why were you like lashing out or acting out and being like that type of kid?
I don't know. I mean, to me, I can kind of chop it up to the relationship that I had. Like, there was no love in my household. It was very disciplined. You know, there was no affection. So there was no "I love you." There was no hugging or touching or anything in my household. So it was very strict. It was performance-based love. It was like, okay, if you do A, B, and C, then D will happen. You know.
That's actually very interesting too, because people that have, from my experience, childhoods like that carries on like for a while, sometimes even forever. Like I've met people who come from those types of backgrounds and they have a hard time accepting love or even giving love because they didn't experience that as a child. Like my parents raised me in a very loving and affectionate type way, so that's the type of person I am now. So it's interesting to see like the different families that people come from and how that like shapes us growing up and as humans.
Yeah, family dynamics definitely play a role, especially with emotional maturity. And I think that was a big part of my stories. I never knew how to mature emotionally because there was no communication. We didn't talk about things. It was I come from the era where, you know, man, you suck it up and you get by, and that's what it is. And I remember even going to therapy with my dad when I was 18. They ended up sending us to therapy. It was the first time I ever seen my dad cry. And it had to do with my biological mother. So the whole conversation about her came up, and he started bawling, crying, and I never went back because I couldn't stand to see my dad in that state.
It was a lot to process.
Yeah, and my dad was like my childhood hero. So
What about the relationship with your sister? Were you guys close at the time?
I have a half sister with my stepmom and my dad.
What you didn't know at the time was your half sister, though.
No, I didn't. So I just consider her to be my sister. Now I had two other sisters, my biological mother that I haven't met. But
Were
yeah,
you close with that half sister?
I wasn't, and she tried to be.
She was older or younger?
She was younger, so I think my family was so like split down in the middle. It was like me and my dad, and my stepmom and my sister, and there was always fights and arguments about the way I was raised. So my dad was real big on if you make straight A's, you play sports, you excel in sports, I'm going to pay for your car, your gas, your insurance, make sure you have an allowance. Whereas my mom was more going to take him to college and maybe even beyond. And she wasn't going for it. Like, I remember one day I was standing there and she was like,
Supporting your dreams.
1 in a million make it. You guys need to quit living in La La Land. And the reality is that the chances are he's not going to make it.
But your dad believed in you.
My dad always.
And that's all you need right there. You just need that one person, especially your father, to believe in you.
Yeah.
And it goes from there. In high school, are you like bullied or anything too while you're playing sports?
I wasn't really bullied. I mean, I was a little bit. I was picked on because I was different, but because I was smart and because of
drawing stop
baseball,
people
like,
from
it kinda
picking
got
on
me
me.
in with the cool kids, but I was always seeking that validation. Like, I wanted that acceptance. Like, I wanted the people to accept me.
Are you popular then? Like, are you the popular sports guy?
Yeah, I mean, I was definitely in the popular crowd, but also like kind of nerdy and awkward at the same time.
So you're not like the dick jock type of
No.
person.
I mean, I guess
Depending who you
but
ask.
who you ask, yeah. I mean, there was definitely moments, but I think for the most part, no. Like, I was amicable with people. I was, a likable guy. Like, my personality wasn't to be a dick or a jerk or treat people differently. I will say, playing baseball, like, a lot of my friends, like, especially with travel ball, they all went to like the private school, and they come from wealthier families where dads are judges and attorneys, and whereas my family struggled. So like, that was hard because I could compete at the same level with baseball as them, but I didn't always have like the nicer clothes to practice or the equipment, and there was times that I would get made fun of for that. Like, I would wear the same practice clothes every single day, and I remember kids would like taunt me because of that.
And that's gotta be hard to know you're different, like, at that time period. Do you think, like, the kids that come from the money and come from those backgrounds that you're just describing are, like, more, or I would say less humbled and more, like, egotistical and assholes compared to what you were because of your background?
Working out doesn't have to be so sad.
Yeah, I mean, I think naturally when you have a sense of entitlement, it's going to make you a little bit arrogant, and I think even part of me would go that way because I would want to pretend to be like them because I wanted to be accepted. So even if I didn't have money, I wanted to act like I did have money, like, because I just wanted to fit in with the crowd, and so that was hard.
Literally the story of my high school career, thinking that I was like this, hot shot. I mean, I wore like a suit and tie to school and was carrying a briefcase and starting this business, and like I was the kid that bought everyone dinners and took everyone out just because I wanted to be liked. I wanted to be popular. Like, I was chasing that, whatever it was. I was never addicted to drugs. I was addicted to the popularity and the thrill of it, people talking about me, and just like in my own mind wanting to be like the center of attention and then the center of everything.
Yeah, and that's what I tell people all the time. It's like you have that spiritual void. You have that void inside of you that you're seeking validation or acceptance, and it doesn't really matter where it comes from. And I mean, in time, that's what leads to some of the decisions people like us make.
Yeah, and that's why I'm so like aware of it now that my platform's getting bigger and everything's coming together and like we're amassing hundreds of thousands of followers and listeners. I don't want to be like that person I was in high school that's chasing after that. I don't want to be like that person that's like I don't want to be like so full of myself in that way and just chasing after those listeners and followers and everything like that. I just want to be me and be like a regular person when people come up to me, be humble and just act regular.
Yeah.
And not let that get to me like it did before when I had nothing in that sense, and now I have more of something that I never had ever. And it's just weird, and it's something that stays in my mind daily.
Yeah, because there come a point where you become beholden to that, whether it's the people, the followers, the likes, the attention. Like, definitely I can identify with that.
Are you drinking or doing any types of substances
abandonment. So when people have abandonment or rejection issues, like I did with my mother, and it's wanting to have people like you, but at the same time, you'll push somebody away before they're able to reject you. And that's kind of how it works in my relationships. That's how it works in all my relationships. Like I would pull you in, I'd be clingy, get you close, but then I would hurt you or push you away before you could hurt me.
Yeah.
Because in my mind, it was happening. It was inevitable. It was coming.
You were like traumatized by like that.
Definitely childhood trauma. And I blame my parents for a lot. Like, not understanding that obviously parents don't get a manual that teaches them how to raise kids, So, like, I was always resentful towards them, So it was hard for me for a long time to even accept accountability for the way I responded to a lot of stuff. But when you have childhood trauma and you don't have access to resources to help people through that, then you never know really how that's going to turn out.
Yeah, I mean, I 100% get what you're saying. Like, I feel it so hard, not from my childhood, but just like where I'm at now. Like, when I'm getting into a relationship with someone, I feel like I have like some past trauma from other people, like abandoning me other relationships because of like the past with the nightclub and going to prison and stuff. That makes me kind of like anxious now. Like when I'm with someone and talking to someone, like, oh, they're just gonna like pack up and leave one day, and it's like a scary like abandonment type issue, and I'm kind of like been trying to dive into like what causes that and the root of that, and kind of like how to quell that anxiousness.
I tell people all the time when people say that weed or drinking is like the gateway to addiction, and I believe wholeheartedly that that's not the case. The gateway to addiction to me is untreated childhood trauma. And that's what ultimately leads to, because all of that addiction isn't any substance or even getting addicted to the money or the attention. It's just a symptom of the greater problem, which is really deep inside of us. The problem's always been me and my inability to learn how to cope with life, learn how to process emotions and feelings, and that's where the anxiety comes in, and that's where, a lot of the PTSD comes into play.
Yeah, and it's super important to work through it, ask for help if you need the help, and just keep going, get up, get back onto the wagon, and keep moving forward.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, go on.
And when you're a kid, though, a lot of times you don't know where to turn to help, especially if you're looking to your parents for guidance and they're, not ones to communicate or show that affection, like, I remember getting my ass beat, and it was, coming from the era of the belts and spanking and whooping, and, so that was kind of like the way that we discipline kids, and to me, it had an adverse effect.
What year were you born, just so the audience puts it in perspective? 83, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Oh.
I mean, not cool that you're
So
40,
I'm a
but
little older. I was born in 81.
Now, when
I
do you
knew we
realize
were
you
the
have
same age,
an actual
right?
talent in baseball?
I think people were telling me all the, growing up. I don't know that I ever fully believed in myself. It really hit home for me. I would say there was a year we won state championship in travel ball and Legion that I had a really good year, but I think after the year after I got drafted, so my sophomore year in college, is when I realized this could really become something. This could be a career if I played my cards right.
So you didn't think going from high school into college? I feel like it's fairly easier, so to say, to get a scholarship for sports into college, right, than it is to.
I would say so. I was an above average player in high school, but I wasn't superstar status where people are going to go out of their way to come find me.
And doesn't when you're growing up, everyone says everyone's good. I feel like parents are always like, he's the best, and then this.
Of course.
And it looks familiar.
Parents always want to hype their kids up. They want to give
Hold on.
I'm very realistic about.
Now I'm curious what year he got out. Because I've been visiting for 21 years. For him to be that age, he looks very, 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 very familiar. Like I've seen him at Viso or something.
Who I am and where I was at, and you know what I mean. I try to be as transparent and honest with myself. I think that's part of my whole recovery process today, anyways. But
were you like that back then?
I would this, where you put out this facade where you act like you're superior or better than, but you really have like this inferiority complex, like on the inside, where it's just, you're so insecure, but you don't want the world to see that, so you project a certain person that you're not, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that was a big thing that I was doing when I was younger.
Where did you end up going to college?
I went to Indian River Community College, so out of high school, I didn't get hardly any offers at all for baseball. I got a couple like Division II NAIA school offers, and the way baseball works is if you, for the draft anyways, for Major League Baseball draft, is that if you go to a junior college, you're draft eligible every year. But if you go to a 4-year school, then you don't have draft eligibility until after you complete your junior year. But I didn't really have any offers from that high school anyways, except for our local community college, which happened to be a really good program.
And that was a full ride?
Not initially. So initially they gave me, I had a 75% academic scholarship because Florida had a Bright Future scholarship based on grades. And then I also had a 75% baseball scholarship. So I was actually getting paid to go to college my freshman year. But one of the rules where I had to live at home. So I wasn't able to live in the dorms. But I went to the community college in my town. So not initially I didn't. But I got drafted to sign with the Braves after my freshman year. I got drafted late, so back then there was 50 rounds in the baseball draft. My freshman year in college, I was like 1-4 with a 4.5 ERA. Like I did horrible. I was partying all the time. Like I was taking all the college kids that came in because we had college kids there from all over the world. We had swimmers. We had a national swim team that was like the best in the country. So they were getting swimmers from like Australia and Colombia, Venezuela.
Is this a big school?
No, it's a small community college, but they were #1 in the nation in swimming, both men and women. They had like the longest streak ever for national championships. It's crazy if you look it up, Indian River Community College. But they also didn't have much competition in the state. But they were getting like really good talent, and even our baseball team, we had really good talent. After my sophomore year in college, we had like 8 guys go pro that ended up going pro, plus another probably like 10 that went Division I. So we had a really good team my sophomore year, but I got drafted my freshman year in the 45th round, and they had like 50 rounds back then. But 45th round is nothing. Like they were gonna offer you no money, but they had what was called a draft and follow. So after my freshman year in college, they drafted me in the 45th round. I say no, obviously they're not offering me any money, but what they do offer is for me to sign my rights to them. So with the draft and follow, you sign your rights to that team, you go back to school for another year, you mature on the baseball field. If you get better, they have a week or 2 grace period before the next year's draft to sign you. If you don't do better, then you're free to go back into the draft. Or if you don't want to sign with them, you go back into the draft. So I went back to school. I signed my rights to the Braves, went back to school my sophomore year, and ended up having like the best year of baseball in my life. That's when I knew like, okay, this is real.
And you didn't know before that when the Atlanta Braves are approaching you? I mean, that's every kid's dream. I know when I was growing up, I think we had one kid that went pro football out of my high school, out of thousands, you know? So the odds of someone like you coming from the small town and
Yeah, to even be drafted, I think I kind of underestimated that, but
that's a huge accomplishment.
and I didn't see it that way then. And this is the other thing though, it's like I was already starting to get into drugs then. So there was a guy on our team that was expected to get drafted. He was one of our catchers.
This is on your college team.
Out of my college team. And he was really good. And he got drafted out of high school. He was expected to get drafted for a freshman year in college. He's actually watching the draft because they only do the couple first rounds televised. Then the rest of the draft is just, you see it on the computer, you know, you can follow it. So I'm out partying on X, like been up for a couple days partying and not even following the draft. Well, I get a phone would like to talk to you about what our plans are for you. And that's what kind of opened up to that door.
What was going through your mind when you signed? Like, who's your first phone call? What's your headspace like?
I called my dad, of course, because like my dad was my hero. And I know that he sacrificed so much for me to be able to play baseball. So I called my dad. There was a girl that I called that I was dating in college at the time that was on the volleyball team. But I don't think it really hit me until the following year when I went back to college.
And this is literally every single college sports athlete's dream to get this phone call.
It is, but they want that phone call earlier. Like they want the early round drafts, like where there's an opportunity for money. But most players, it doesn't even matter. They can just play. You know, if you can sign, obviously that's a big deal. You know.
Now, what made you stand out? Why you? Why were they interested in you?
6'3" left-handed pitcher. I mean,
And what's the
and that's
significance?
exactly what they said because I was left-handed pitcher is like the #1 way to probably. It's like it's the most rare person or athlete. You know, it's a left-hand. First of all, to be left-handed and a pitcher, it's like the highest demand because you don't see it too often. So, and they use left-handed pitchers for they'll come in, they'll make a whole career out of just coming in and facing one batter. You know, that's how left-handed pitchers like the longevity of what their career can be just because based on that alone. Because there's such a need for it. But in the fact that I was 6'3", and back then I was super skinny though. I was probably 160 pounds, 6'3", 160 pounds. So that was the big thing the Braves told me is like I needed to hit the gym when I go back to school the following year. You know, work out, gain some weight, mature.
Now, say you got drafted as like a freshman or sophomore in college. Do you finish college or do you just like leave? Like the typical person that gets drafted.
So if you get drafted, like I said earlier, the only way you can get drafted after your freshman or sophomore year is to go to JUCO, junior college.
So if you do that and you get drafted,
So if you decide to sign, then you have to report to camp.
and you're done with college.
You're done with college. Now you lose your college eligibility too. So that's the other thing.
So because that's how like the young players get in, they just skip college completely. So if it doesn't work out professionally, then they're kind of starting back at zero.
Yeah, well, and then you lose your collegiate eligibility, which is a huge thing. But most people get it in their contract, and I did too. Is that where the professional team, like the Braves, had to pay for my remaining years in college. So at that point, I still had 2 years left because I got my A degree, and I had signed with FIU down in Miami after.
Which is a good school.
Which is a good school, and back then they were like around 25, top 30 in the country. But even then I did that prematurely because I signed in the fall, and had I waited till after the spring season because I matured so much from my sophomore year, even from my freshman year, but from my sophomore year from the fall to the spring, like it was night and day. I mean, I ended up going from throwing like 87, 88 to like 90 to 92, touch 93. Ended up throwing the only no-hitter in our college history. I started out the season as the #2 pitcher. By the end of the season, I was neck and neck with our #1, who was also like really good.
So you had a great year. You're officially signed with the Atlanta Braves. They take you up on it.
So after my sophomore year, they had the grace period to sign me. They made me a few offers. My agent was like, don't take it, don't take it. I ended up signing.
Yeah, what was the whole process like with dealing with an agent, the money, the contract, being that young? You're what, 22 at the time?
No, younger than that, 19.
So what's that like?
Yeah, so the way it works is that if you still have collegiate eligibility, you're not allowed to officially sign an agent. You can have a financial advisor. The team still has to talk directly to you. They're not allowed to talk to him. If you sign with him officially, now you give up your amateur status, and now you're a professional, and you're no longer allowed to play college ball. So the way that works is the team will make an offer to you. You take that offer to the agent, the guy that's going to be your agent, and he'll tell you yes or no. Take it back to them. You go back and forth that way. Now, once you officially sign it on the dotted line, now he gets his cut. So my agent was a guy by the name of Bill Rose and Brian Doyle, and it was DRM, which was Doyle Rose Management, something like that. different process. So I got in trouble even in college. They weren't even gonna ask me to go back for my sophomore year. Like I lost my scholarship after my freshman year because I did so horrible and I was partying all the time. The only reason they even brought me back was because another guy, one of our pitchers, ended up signing with the Twins. So they had an opening spot, and he ended up telling me, I'll give you, full scholarship. But I think part of that too was because the Braves signed me, so that guarantees that scouts will come out here.
So you got another chance.
So he gave me another shot.
So back to the contract. What's that process like to with the negotiating aspect?
They had a week grace period. So first day he calls, says we're gonna offer you 80,000. I say to the agent, he says no. So they are thinking I can get somewhere around like 500,000.
So you're the middleman.
I'm the
The
middleman.
agents whatever you want to call them, aren't talking.
They're not allowed to.
Yeah.
Then you give up your amateur status if you do it. So like that's the hard part about it. Is like they're coming at me. I'm a young kid. I have no idea about how the industry works, how people are, like obviously their goal is to sign you for as little money as they possibly can, and to get you to give up the rest of your collegiate years. And they succeeded. I ended up doing it. And I probably shouldn't have.
How much did you sign for?
175,000.
And out of that 175,000, how's the split work? How much do you get? How much?
I had to give him 3%, so it wasn't much.
Now, had the roles been reversed, your agent, financial planner, whatever you want to call them, done the negotiating, you think you would have gotten more?
Absolutely.
So you kind of got taken advantage of and railroaded in that scenario.
Yeah, definitely don't believe that should even be allowed. I don't know if they still do it, but
And you're a kid that came from no money.
so that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
I mean, that was the whole thing. My dad's telling me, so I'm calling my agent, I'm calling my dad. My agent's saying, no, hold out, we'll get you more.
Your dad's saying,
And I was a lifelong Braves fan. You got to think, too, like I wanted to play for the Braves. I knew it was a good organization. But my agent's saying, no, you're going to go anywhere from the second to the sixth round. Back in 2003, that's anywhere from 750,000 to 200,000, maybe a little less. 100,000 if you're sixth round. So like I kind of fell into like fifth round money when I signed.
which is a lot of money back then.
Back then, at that time, yeah, it was a lot of money. Fifth round money. If you're in the top 5-10 rounds of draft, then you're doing well.
And you also wanted to stick it to your stepmom too, that you could pull it off in the back of
Oh
your mind.
God, yeah, that was like a big thing, and I'll never forget because when I finally did sign that contract, the scout for the Braves came in, the agent came, they bring the big check, and
You got the big check.
Yeah,
Can you cash that check, or how does that
I
work?
don't know how that works. No, because I ended up breaking it down. I got multiple checks, so there was a different tax bracket, so that was something else that they told me. So I broke it down into a couple different checks to fall under a different tax bracket. So I remember I would get the check the 1st of January of each year.
Which isn't even that much.
No, I ended up blowing through that money, no time at all, a couple years.
I mean, you give a kid that much money that has no
Comes
money
from nothing and no emotional maturity.
I mean, I look at when I was handed $500,000 or more than that, and you see the outcome that happened with.
Yeah.
So it's not a good mix.
Yeah.
And there was no one giving you advice, saying, "Hey, put it into a business account, do this, do
My
that."
dad was trying. I wasn't listening. He was trying, and I got wrapped up with drug dealer friends. People you call your friends and they're really making money off my money.
They leech
You know
on
what I
you
mean?
because now
Yeah.
you're the rich, popular baseball player.
Yeah, and in my mind, this wasn't going to end. This was just the beginning of, in my mind, I'm going to make it to the big leagues. At that point, I felt I had the talent to make it.
And this was a stepping stone to get to the
Yeah,
next
that's the
level.
climb through the ranks. So
And do your time, get the real money.
yeah.
Do you report to camp right away? How does that work after the signing?
Yeah, so I had to report. Our spring training was at Disney Wild
His
World
style
Sports,
is good.
and then
Really
they ended up sending me to advanced rookie. So they have low rookie and advanced rookie. That's your first stop.
And what does that mean? What's the difference between
Really
those
good.
two?
Usually the low rookie is more like high school players, people that are coming out of high school.
They have high school players in the league.
Yeah, guys who after their senior year, you got guys that literally signed right out of high school.
That's crazy.
18 years old.
Yeah.
So we got some, like Dominican players that are
What's training like? What's it like for you?
My first year I was like 1-6. I had 1 win, 6 losses, but I had a really good ERA. We just couldn't hit. Like our team wasn't that good, but
And you actually got playing time.
yeah, I was a starter. So, but there was a lot of politics to it, and the way baseball works is obviously the people that get the money invested in them, they get the playing time. So there was a couple other guys that I've seen that were performing really well, but because they had somebody who signed for a bunch of money
There's a lot of
sitting in front of them,
politics.
then they didn't get the playing time. And that person that got the bunch of money could be doing horrible on the field and not putting up any kind of numbers, but because the investment was with them, it's a business, you know. And that's the part of it I didn't like, because I didn't understand it, you know, I was young.
Do you get a salary too on top of your signing bonus?
Minor league players get paid jack, like, and it's a crime. And I think they started to make a change with it, but
What was your salary?
$800 a month.
And plus room and board, or you're paying?
Yeah, no, they're paying for room and board.
Okay.
So
Food too?
food, 2 meals, they're giving you a per diem, like $10 a meal.
What's that? A fucking couple big doubles and big
Yeah,
chickens back?
yeah,
that
dude,
was
it's
a lot
2003,
back
still
then.
money, I guess, went a little
The
bit.
dollar menu was actually the dollar menu. Now you go to McDonald's and the dollar menu, everything's like $2.25. It's crazy.
Yeah, so it's crazy, because in the minor leagues, there's no players union, so they own the rights to you. And it's strict. I mean, we literally had to have short haircuts, our face had to be clean shaven, we had to have collared shirts on everywhere we went, with our shirts tucked in, with khaki pants on, or shorts. Like, anytime you represent the team, this is how you had to go out. And they give you literally $800 a month, so I got a paycheck, I think it was like $400 every 2 weeks. But they get paid for the hotel, but when
That
you're,
was a lot.
anything that they pay for, you gotta go by their rules. So you have to get
2000.
by 10 o'clock.
They own you.
Yeah, no alcohol, no girls, like, and I was partying a lot, so that was trouble for me.
What was it like to be a professional athlete in an era where social media didn't exist? Like, what's that like back then? There was no smartphones. There was
No, it wasn't. Yeah, I mean,
Is it just like girls waving you down? They see you? How does that work?
it's crazy. You have girls literally waiting in the
You meet
hotel.
in person.
Like, and it's funny. What's funny?
That's
I don't know if
something
it's funny or
like
not,
that.
but so there's always with the Brady's there was this chick, and I don't even know what the heck her real name was, but
She hopped each brave.
dude, she went by the name Horny. They called her like Horny, like, and this is not even a joke. Like, this is a real story. And she would show up at spring training. She would show up at every minor league team. And like, the running joke with the guys was that you had to sleep with her in order to get to the big leagues. Like, you wouldn't make it unless. But she would take guys, and these guys would sign for 800,000, $1 million. She would take these guys to the mall and like buy them stuff.
She would buy them.
By themselves. Yeah, like, and I guess she had daddy's money, like, and it was insane. But there were so many girls like that, like,
I can still
go to
like
the
that
hotel
now.
room. Yeah, I mean, anywhere you go, they're waiting.
It's crazy, like what some women or even men do. Because I have a lot of men that slide in my DMs too.
Oh yeah.
And I'm not even like a hugely famous person or anything, but just seeing
Good-looking
some
guy.
of the, no, but like just seeing like some of the offers that people present, they don't even know me, and they want to buy you stuff, they want to do this, they want to go out with you. Like, these are complete random strangers that are doing this. So I can imagine like what it was like back then.
And I was wild. Like, I was chasing the nightlife. To me, it was just one big party. Like, I just had no grasp on life. Like, I just had no understanding. Like, I wish I would have waited. It's even crazy because my roommate in college was a guy by the name of Steve Pierce, and he ended up winning the World Series MVP with the Red Sox in 2018. But he would always tell me, like, don't take the money, go to school, like, wait, just wait. You're not ready yet.
He was in the major leagues before you, right?
He ended up making it to the big leagues. I signed for him.
Oh, you signed before.
He got drafted at the same time as me,
But he kept telling you not to.
but he didn't sign. He said the only way I'm going to sign is if they offer me $1 million. And he stuck to that. I remember him telling me that. He stuck to that. And they didn't, when he ended up signing, they didn't even offer him $1 million. But he made that and some because he had his head on straight. Like, he was mentally and emotionally stable. Like, I wasn't. So he kept telling me not to sign. And I remember sitting in prison and watching him on TV win the World Series MVP and was thinking, like, wow, like,
a super critical moment that like the audience needs to remember this moment if you're listening to this right now, because it doesn't turn out well for you in the end, like as we know, but that really could have been you. Like that's haunting to think about. Like that was everything you could have been.
That was supposed to be my life. And I hated baseball. Like I wouldn't even watch baseball because like I was so mad at myself, you know. But because he made it to the World Series, I had to watch it. Like,
So how do you get to that point? Where does it all go wrong? I know you're partying when you're playing. You're this famous, guy now with the draft. You're on the Atlanta Braves. Where does it really turn bad?
so in the minor leagues, like I'm known for partying, and
You look the part, by the way. The baseball party.
well, I'm a
guy.
Florida guy, so our spring training was at Disney in Orlando. So like I was kind of like homegrown, so like I knew like all the little local spots and stuff. But I started getting in trouble with the team first, and it's just breaking team rules, being out past curfew, drinking, having girls at the hotel. I mean, there's literally times where they come do room checks, and I got girls running out of the rooms like naked. Like it was just insanity, and switching rooms with other players, like just doing a lot of dumb stuff, like really blowing a great opportunity. But so what happened? The last time I got in trouble was like the Braves already told me like you're not allowed to go out anymore. At the time, the head of minor league operations was a guy by the name of David Moore, who ended up becoming the general manager of the Kansas City Royals years later. But he was like a rising star in the admin side of things, and they told me don't go out anymore. We need to, lay low and get it together. When we all go out, there ends up being a big fight in downtown Orlando. And somehow my name gets thrown in the mix that I was there, and the Braves suspend me indefinitely. So what that means is that they still own the rights to me, but I got to pack it up and go home. But I was so messed up. I was so out of it that at times that there was one time I passed out on the field because I was so like malnourished. I went back to spring training after my first year in the minor leagues. I went back the second year. I was 6'3", 155 pounds, like strung out, like bad. And obviously everybody else knew. They used to make fun of me. Like, you're the skinniest guy in pro ball. Like I remember like literally wrapping their hands around my wrist because like how skinny I was. Like I couldn't even get the ball to home plate.
What kind of drugs were you doing that caused
Coke then, like
It was
a
all
whole bunch of coke then, yeah. And drinking and coke.
So did you even process when they told you you were suspended indefinitely? Did that hit you?
It didn't hit me because I was so far gone at that time. Even my agent was like, "You need to come down," because my agent was based out of like Miami area.
Yeah, could they have saved you or anything?
He was trying. Like my dad was trying, my agent was trying. Like I just wasn't listening. I'm couch surfing. I'm air mattress surfing. I've got this money still, so like
You still have the money. Okay.
yeah. So I'm just partying. I've got drug dealer friends that are like flipping money.
So you're making some.
Yeah, trying, but I'm not making it because I'm using it.
How long into your contract was this?
I played probably 2.5 seasons.
Before this really got bad?
Yeah, well, it got bad after the first year.
What do you think could have avoided this? Or was this just destined to happen because of your early childhood, because of the money, because of everything put together?
I think even when the people tried to step in, I would shut down anyways. But it would have took some serious type of inpatient type treatment or intervention, which that never came. But the people that did try to help, my dad, the coaches, my agent,
Hold on,
I
let me
wouldn't
tell
listen.
y'all something.
To me, there was nothing wrong. Like I got this, everything's fine.
This is a great interview, but I don't draw teeth. I never draw teeth. I have noticed that every time I draw teeth on a picture, it makes it look really weird. So I draw the outline of the mouth, but I will never draw teeth. I can do like the edge of the teeth there, and then maybe just a little bit of, around, but I would never draw in the lines of the teeth. I've never had a picture come out right with teeth on it.
I don't see how bad it really is. Everybody outside looking in can see how bad it is, but to me, it's not that bad.
I can't imagine how heartbreaking it probably was for your dad to watch this, for you to achieve that goal, your dream, and then
The self-destruct.
yeah, it's for it to
And he
go away.
sacrificed everything for me. So like that's
that's the hardest part for me now. Like, more than anything is because this guy literally raised me when my mom left me. And
Gave up his career so
gave
you
up
could have
his
a
career so I could have a career. And made sure, like, so, like, that's probably still, like, the hardest part for me. Like, super hard.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure it taunted you like every day since about everything. I know, like, what I've seen my dad do for me
Yeah.
throughout everything, the lengths he's done to protect me and to help me out and stuff. Like,
I mean, so many times, like, you know, man, jail, I got arrested in spring training, like, at the Braves field, I got arrested, like, he went, bailed me out there. The many times that I ended up getting in trouble down the road, like, there was times where, like, where I'd spend all my money, like, I owed drug dealers, like, he's coming to pick me up in, like, these random locations, paying my debts, like, when I tell you I got bad, like, I was literally homeless in the streets, just ending up in all different neighborhoods, like, owing people money. I mean, like, it's sad, like, really, like.
Now, this didn't just happen overnight. So those first 2.5 years playing, did the team like protect you and bury stuff under the rug because someone had to have noticed that you were getting arrested, getting in trouble?
Well, I got arrested the first time when I was with the Braves, and they kind of act like it happened in the off season, but I was at the offense happened in the off season, but I got arrested because there was a warrant out for my arrest. So I got arrested at the field, and
While you're practicing.
well, it was at nighttime.
Oh,
So,
okay.
but I was supposed to be at the field the next morning to practice. Yeah.
Okay.
And so then it was a misdemeanor charge, but they were like, well, it happened in the off season. It was a misunderstanding, you know.
So you were like
no big deal.
privileged.
But it was definitely privilege. No, hands down. You know, like, and I think that was a big downfall for me too. Is that every time that I would get in trouble, people would try to shield and protect me because of my career, not realizing that was really doing more damage. You know, because if I would get arrested for disorderly intoxication or public intoxication, they'd slap me on my wrist.
That's what we're finna do
send me right back out
now.
there, but it's still
I am going
untreated
to
childhood trauma.
go get my tablet.
It just progressively got worse.
We're
And I
gonna
think
make a
that's
TikTok
definitely
video
changed
because we're not
society
just
a lot since back
YouTubers
then
anymore.
with like the cover-ups and everything. Because you look at now, they're cutting you right away.
Sorry.
If someone gets arrested, any type of sports, they could be a top athlete.
Yeah.
They're done. That's it. Like
Oh, yeah.
anything hits the news, you have to be very careful. In
Too
this
much
case,
stuff is hit the public eye now, and the advent of social media.
Yeah.
You know, like you said, smartphones. You didn't have smartphones back then.
so it was easier to bury up.
It's very easy to bury, you know, what was going on. And they invested this money in me. Like, they don't get that money back if they release me or something, you know. That ends up being my money, and to them, that's not a whole lot of money. They're a billion-dollar industry, you know, organization, but still. And I think them too. Like, everybody just wants to see you do well. You know, like they, you know, slap you upside the head and get it together.
Now it doesn't just end with you getting caught and that's it. Everyone moves on with their life. You end up in prison. So what happens between the time you're suspended indefinitely and a prison sentence?
Okay, hold on.
I'm working like odd jobs. I keep telling everybody I'm going back to baseball. But
Were you planning on it?
Okay, so tablet storage is full. So let's do this. I'm gonna stop the live really quickly. I'm gonna use the phone to record the TikTok. Then we're gonna come back and finish that. Thing is full. Okay, so how can I do this? I don't have TikTok on my tablet. Maybe I'll have to download TikTok. It's too much. It's hard to do all this. Keep everything together. It's just always one problem after another when you're trying to do something. Okay, so let me use my tablet. Then I'm gonna have to download TikTok to do this. Oh, I can't even see the picture. have been working on this picture of Danny Collins while I am doing a live on my channel, my YouTube channel, reviewing. I'm listening to an interview of him about an hour in. It's really good. I heard a lot about his baseball career and getting signed and stuff. And now it's getting into the part where he went to prison. So I'm gonna try to finish this on my live tonight. And then I'm gonna take the footage from my live and I am going to edit it. Hopefully tomorrow I get it edited. And then, do where, it goes fast, and then I can show the whole thing. And here we are. This is Project Reach the World. He is an advocate for criminal justice reform and prison reform. And he is one of the only people that I hear talking about wrongful convictions. Yeah. I'm just finishing in the neck here. Oh, y'all actually see me. I'm on YouTube Live too at the moment. So I got my people over there as I'm recording this. But he has been a very big whistleblower, basically about DLC and things going on, corruption, and though he has got out and become a returning citizen. All right, so I will let you guys know how this turns out. I'll show y'all when I'm finished. All right, guys. It's your girl Kadlac. Okay, YouTube, we back. Now this interview getting good.
In my hand, I was authentically planning on it. Like, that was my plans, but I was so wrapped up in addiction that it was impossible for that to happen. Like, but in my mind, that's what I kept saying. Because in my mind, I kept minimizing it. Like, it's not that bad. It's not that bad. This is just gonna go away, or I'll do it tomorrow. And tomorrow, and I just never got it together. So I ended up spending all the money, burned like all my bridges, had nowhere to go.
Man.
I go to treatment.
And then I
like,
bet
my dad's
most
still,
all
like,
those
trying to get me
friends.
help. So I went to a treatment center in Jacksonville, Florida. And when I got out of treatment, I started working for a company up there. So I'm working up there for a while. And I meet my wife that I'm with now.
I can't hardly see the picture,
And she's
but
trying
it
to help
won't
me.
increase.
And I've had bouts like where I get it together.
I just move
mess
it up
and I
here.
get it together and I mess up. But it got so bad, like where I had like multiple suicide attempts. Like,
This is rock bottom,
yeah, I'm at rock bottom. Like,
and your agents have dropped you by this point.
agents have dropped me. I've lost everything. There was a point in time where I'm at my friend's house. He had a 410 rifle. Like, I shoot it. It ends up just missing me. Goes through like I could have hurt somebody else. Like, I was just a mess. Another time I was in Jacksonville. I took they had me on Suboxone. It was back when they had like the stop sign ones, and I took like 50 of those and like started like chewing them up, and I swallowed a whole bunch of Seroquel. I took like 100 milligrams Seroquel. Thank God they ended up pumping my stomach, but like I was ready to die. Like I was just hopeless. I lost everything. Like my whole life, my whole identity was in baseball.
Did losing baseball propel the drug addiction down?
Made it even worse. Because my identity's in baseball. You take that away, who am I? Like I had no idea who I was.
Yeah.
And my whole life was centered around baseball.
Well, that's like one of the worst things that can ever happen to someone when you don't have your purpose and you're missing that identity. You're just like in limbo. I remember days where like I was like, what am I doing? Like I don't know what I'm doing.
Desperately looking
Like
for
to
my
wake up and not have
purpose.
a purpose, that's scary.
Yeah.
You combine that with drug use,
Yeah.
you're in a dangerous situation right now.
Very dangerous.
I
And
want my
not only a
purpose so
danger to
desperately.
myself, but at that point, become a danger to society too. Like and that wasn't intentional and wanting to hurt people, but just a natural byproduct of the decisions I was making was that somebody was going to get hurt. If not, I'm going to end up losing my life. But when I finally got in trouble, I lost everything. Even the wife that I'm with now, she's like telling me, you can't come back because I'm using drugs. Like, can't come back home. So I started driving around. Now, this company I'm working for out of Jacksonville, they gave me a company truck, and I was a marketing director for like this home inspection company.
And this is early 20s or later?
I'm 25, 26.
So you're driving around.
Driving around. At this point, I've done graduated drugs to needle in my arm, pipe in my mouth, like I am using drugs by myself with nobody else around, like have no friends, like
You're a junkie, a full-blown junkie.
junked out, like completely, like bad, you know. But the company I'm working for, I'm literally driving around, getting high. They had GPS on me, and I'm driving around from. I had to go to real estate agents and insurance agents to market our home inspections to them. And I'm driving around, and they're tracking me. So I'd stop, and I'd just get high in the parking lot. I'd never go in, and I'd go to the next stop, and I'd go to the next stop. And I'm doing this for a while before she finally kicks me out. The wife I'm with now, Jody, and justifiably so, because I'm obviously not deserving of being there. But I ended up staying with a friend, and my friend's selling drugs too at the time. He's trying to cut me off as well, because
Even the drug dealer
even
wants
the drug
to cut you
dealers
off.
are cutting me off. Like that's how
That's how
bad
you
it's
know
getting.
you're-
Yeah, like it got so bad, and 'cause I just had no off switch, and so he doesn't want me to go back to his house, but I got all my stuff at his house, and I go knock on the door, and his girlfriend's sister answers the door, and I'm like, hey, you mind if I come and get some of my stuff? And she's like, yeah, no problem. She doesn't know that he doesn't really want me there, so I go in, I grab some of my stuff, but then I go into the safe and I grab some of his stuff, including some drugs, and I leave. Well, when I leave, I get driving down the road, and I'm like, man, I should have took everything at this point. You know, I was like, that's super me, and I should have grabbed the rest of my stuff. So I go back to the house. I knock on the door again. This time she opens the door.
You doc, you're polite.
I'm polite. Yeah, this is crazy, right? So I knock on the door. She opens the door, but there's a look on her face like she's on the phone, like probably like I'm not supposed to be there. But she doesn't say where I can come in. She's probably like, well, I don't know what, you know, but I know them well. You know, like I grew up with them. So like, when she opens the door and she kind of steps back, I just go in. I go take the rest of the stuff, and I leave. Well, as I'm leaving, here he comes with his girlfriend down the road, and I get in my truck and I leave. Like I don't care. Like I'm just so far gone, I don't care. Well, she calls the cops. So I'm taking back roads out of the neighborhood, and I'm getting ready to go back down. I'm gonna go beg and plead with my wife, I'm with now, who's my girlfriend at the time, to see if maybe she'll let me in. Like I really had no direction, like wandering aimlessly. Well, I get to, there's a road in my town that takes us out to 95, so I'm going down a back road called Angle Road. Kings Highway ends up taking me out to 95. Well, I see a cop coming. So instead of me turning right, I go straight. Now me and him, we're the only people on the road. It's late at night. So when I see him come my way, in my mind, I'm like, I'm not stopping. Because I see him stopping the intersection to turn around and come behind me. I said, I'm not stopping. Like, he's going to have to kill me. Or, you know, like, this is not going to end well. So I end up taking off. He, you know, has the lights on. We get in a high-speed chase. And I'm going down all these back roads in the town. And I end up at a dead end. I'm at a point where I've got multiple cops with their guns drawn on me. I'm looking in the rearview mirror, and they're wanting me to get out of the car, and I'm like, I'm not. Like, they have to kill me. Like, literally, like, that's what I'm thinking. Like, suicide by cop. Like, my life, I was hopeless. Like, I literally lost everything.
You wanted to die.
I wanted to die at that point, but I was too much of a coward to do it myself, and that's where the hard part was. So I dropped the truck into first gear. I spin it around, and now I'm going at them. But I'm not trying to hit them, I'm trying to get away from them. And lucky enough, I didn't hit them. And they didn't shoot me. Like, privilege again. caught air. I braced myself, and I hit water, and my head hit the windshield, and the truck started sinking.
What?
And when the truck started sinking, I started panicking, and it's filling up with water. I'm panicking.
This sounds like
I
a
start trying to
movie.
beat the window, open the doors. I can't get it. Well, when a truck sinks, it kind of like movies out a little bit. So there's a hatch, and there's a camper on this truck. It's wrapped in the company I'm working for. It's a Maripro. It's all wrapped in this company. That's how they identified me on the road too, the cops. So they knew like who to chase. But so I don't know if I punched the glass or how it went, but somehow, and that's why I got this huge gash here. But I'm going through the back of the truck. Well, I feel like somebody pulls me through, and then I go to swim up. Like in my mind, all I'm trying to do is get air because I swallowed so much water. I'm panicking. I just want to breathe. Like I'm telling myself I'm about to die, and the truck's still sinking. Well, there's a little pocket of air in the top corner, so I go up for this pocket of air, and I grab the air, and I'm still trying to think how I'm gonna get out of this truck. And there's the camper on the back of it, so I push on, the hatch that pulls up. So as I push, the corner pops out. Well, the truck's going down completely under at the same time that I'm trying to go up. But it's like a vacuum. It's like a black hole. It's just like sucking. Pulls my shorts off, pulls my shoes off. I end up feeling like somebody's pulling me out of the truck. So I swim up. The truck goes completely under. In my mind, I'm still running. I'm on the run from the police. So I start swimming. I see cop lights up on the canal bank and on the canal bank. And I see a Q-beam shine in the water. It's like a spotlight, how cops have a Q-beam. So I see it. I start swimming towards this Q-beam. And after I give up. I can't run no more. The current was so strong. And I start swimming towards the Q-beam because I was ready to surrender. But when I climb up on the canal bank, it's a really steep canal bank. I climb up, I end up passing out. I completely black out. And when I wake up, it's the next day, and there's nobody in sight. There's no cops there, there's nothing. Like, I'm covered in blood, just got a pair of boxer briefs on, a t-shirt, my hands sliced open, my face is out in the air, like, my whole foot laid, everything's filleted, like, and I start screaming at the top of my lungs. I'm in, like, super high grass. I ended up living in Taylor Creek Canal in Fort Pierce, but, I'm screaming at the top of my lungs. Well, some time passes. I don't even know how much time it is. Cop comes up, ambulance comes up. They get out of the vehicles. They go look in the water. There's obviously the truck is at the bottom of this canal bank. But I'm screaming at the top of my lungs. Now they come over. Now I'm cussing them out. You and my motherfuckers left me here for dead. You pulled me out of this vehicle, and you left me here for dead. I need to get to the hospital. And they're like, we didn't pull you out of the vehicle. And I'm like, what do you mean you didn't pull me out of the vehicle? Like, you definitely pulled me out of the vehicle. I need to get to the hospital. And they're like, no, we thought you pulled a Houdini and disappeared. So I was like, well, then what brought you back to this spot? And they said that there was a lady on the end of the street. They called the cops. Said that there's a white male out here covered in blood, in his boxer briefs, screaming bloody murder. So they end up loading me up in the back of the ambulance. They're taking me to the hospital. They keep asking me questions, and I'm so green at the time. They're asking me who was driving. And I'm like, I was driving. You know I was driving. You pulled me out of the vehicle, and you left me there for dead. Like, and they were like, no, we didn't. Like, they stuck to that. But whenever I said I was driving, it was the whole time I was incriminating myself. So I learned that later about the law, because technically, with the vehicle being in the water, me there, somebody else could have been driving the vehicle. So,
You're literally lucky to be alive.
I'm lucky to be alive.
And that wasn't a wake-up call, though, for you at that moment.
It was at that moment.
But not long term.
It didn't last. It wasn't anything substantial.
What did they end up charging you with?
I got charged with 2 burglary of occupied dwellings.
For stealing from another criminal.
For stealing from somebody else stealing. But I did steal him a bottle watch and I think a laptop and a necklace along with, substances. And he was selling me drugs and a lot of other people too. So I just got charged with 2 burglary of occupied dwellings. I got charged with a burglary of conveyance because I opened up his truck door. I got charged charged with possession of cocaine, aggravated fleeing and eluding, and assault on an officer. The officer said that when my vehicle was pointed in his direction, he was in fear of his life. So, like, my vehicle became a missile, which I can understand that, you know. Although I was never trying to hit him, like, I can understand where that could have, that's obviously a very dangerous situation. But
So this is the first time you're in serious
it's the
trouble.
first time I ever got in serious trouble. Like,
Are you given bond or they hold you?
no, so I was already out on bond for possession of cocaine. So, yeah, I was out on bond for possession of cocaine, so they revoked my bond. I couldn't get out.
What's
But,
your dad saying to you?
first of all, he kept thinking that the cops, like, literally pulled me out of that vehicle. But he was upset, you know what I mean? But my dad was, like, my biggest enabler. You know, like, he was there for me. You know, he got me the attorney. He answered the phone when he made sure I had canteen. Like, he did whatever he could to, like, he was trying to protect me, you know?
Was there still a relationship with your stepsister or your stepmom?
No, it was out the door at that point. So they never saw me, talked to me, you know?
And you get jail time for this.
So I sit in jail for like 16 months fighting the case. And then, yeah, I pled out in front of the judge with a 10-year cap, and they gave me what I scored out to, which was 52.6 months. And a year house arrest is what he gave me. But, and they were still trying to, like, because they knew of my baseball career, and they were like, but he's like, somebody who's done this, like, I can't not make them see the inside of a prison, you know?
So you think they still were lenient on you?
I mean, most people, if you get two verbally occupied dwellings, just on paper, that looks bad. Even though the circumstances of the case, like, the person that I took it from, all my stuff was at this house, you know, like,
Yeah, but I think you needed rehab at that point.
I needed treatment, for sure.
You didn't need
But the
prison.
fact that I got in a high-speed chase and put people in a cop and dangerous, multiple cops probably.
I get it, but maybe if they had given you rehab first.
Yeah, I mean, I don't believe in that prison works at all, like, so, and I believe that's what progressively leads people to the high recidivism rates that we see today, is because you slap them on the wrist, so you get a bunch of arrests that lead up, slap them on the wrist, turn them loose, and then you hit them with the prison. Where in that span was there rehabilitation? Like, the rehabilitation should have started the first time I got arrested for public intoxication, you know?
So you go to prison. This is your first time ever in prison.
First time in prison.
I know you go a second time, so we'll focus on the second time. The first time, though, when you get out, how old are you when you get out?
31.
31, you get out. How do you end up back in prison for a way longer sentence?
Okay.
It's crazy because I got out, I was doing well, I had an opportunity to go back and play baseball. At this point,
You had another chance to play
I
baseball.
had cleaned myself up.
Dude, you gave it a lot of chances through this whole thing.
I didn't go play though.
Okay.
The
It would have been for
opportunity
the
was on the
pros.
table. It was independent ball. So
That would have paid.
yeah, I mean they pay. It's not. It's like below the minor league. So you got independent ball, which they pay you. There's
Okay.
different levels of
Yeah.
Could
independent.
that have led
It could have
to
led back to
where you were?
where I was.
And are you clean when you get out of jail that first time?
Yeah, the first time I was.
So what happens? How does that get screwed up again?
I'm working at a treatment center. I'm doing very well. Clean for a while.
You're probably like the community's looking at you in a positive light.
Absolutely.
Turn
Just,
your
you
life
know,
around.
ex-baseball player, you know, goes to prison, turns his life around. I'm publicly speaking. I'm helping out.
It's a good story. So
Yeah, and then I'm actually even helping with the sheriff's department. I'm helping with the public defender's office. You know, like every opportunity I get, I'm going back into jail. I'm speaking. I'm talking to youth. And I ended up marrying with my ex-wife, and we had a fight or something, and I relapsed. Like,
just that one fight drew you over.
yeah, and I relapsed.
What was it? What causes a relapse? Like, what was the trigger?
I mean, anything can cause a relapse. Like,
For
relapse,
you,
it ends up being, to me, it's an excuse. Like, the work was never done. So if you don't physically do the work inside, like, if you don't really work on yourself, it's only a matter of time. And, like, that's the difference between me now and any other time in the past. It's like, this time I was willing to give up everything because I knew anything I put before my recovery, I would lose. Like, so, like, I knew that I had to put in the work. And before I was always in a hurry to get back to baseball or to get back to a job or get back to this girl. Whereas this time I was like, I don't care. Like, I will give up everything. So at that time, I'm working in treatment, but I'm not really working on me at all. So I'm not doing any recovery work. I mean, I was working working in the private treatment industry, which it was like, back then it was the wild, wild west. Like, you make a lot of money off people going to treatment, and it was insane. Like, I started making, I'm talking about a month or two out of prison, I'm making, you know, anywhere from $6,000 to $10,000 a month.
That's great money.
Yeah, fresh out of prison, off just getting people's insurance to get them into treatment. So, but there's a lot of, it's unethical in so many ways because it's like a cycle, man. Like, they would do what's called patient brokering, where they would literally like pay these people to use their insurance. And it's like, I'll pay you $1,000 to come to our treatment facility because I know that our treatment facility is going to charge your insurance $60,000. You know, or I'll pay you. So like, that's what they were doing, and then they were like paying us so they could do that. Like,
And that's illegal, or?
they ended up getting arrested behind it. The owners did.
So there is like
you know.
some fraud aspect.
Yeah, but it was back then. There was so much of it going on, especially in South Florida. Like, that was like the hub for it, and
So you're doing good, and then all of a sudden
going really well. And then all of a sudden, yeah, I relapsed.
How bad was the relapse?
For me, it's always bad. You know, 'cause I don't stop.
So
Like,
you just went full blown drug addiction. It's
full-blown
bad.
drug addiction. My ex-wife at the time, like, she hadn't known me in addiction. She only knew me in recovery. So like, she's seen a whole other side of me, and she ended up kicking me out.
And that's a lot of pressure on someone.
Yeah,
that
so
doesn't-
being a convicted felon too, like getting out of prison, like I wasn't able to put nothing in my name. So even though I'm making a bunch of money, the apartment's in her name because I couldn't put it in my name. And so she ends up kicking me out, and justifiably so. Like, I was when I'm in active addiction, like, look out. Like, you don't want any, you know, like, I shouldn't be around anybody. And that's probably good for most addicts. But anyway, so she tells me to leave. Well, now I have nowhere to go, and my dad's like, look, you can stay at the house, but you just got to be out of there before your mom gets home.
Your stepmother.
My stepmom.
Who you have no relationship
I had no
with.
relationship. No, it started to get a little better then.
Yeah.
But when I relapsed, they were trying to get me help, and I wasn't, you know, like, they were trying to stop me, you know, like, and I'm blaming her, the ex-wife, because, like, I found out some stuff, and I blamed her, but at the end of the day, like, it was just me. I didn't do the work. And everything was a front. Like, I was, again, trying to seek acceptance and validation. I got real big into, like, the church and Christianity and wanting to be you know, and the faith wasn't real. Like, it became religiosity, and so everything was just about, look at me to accept me, you know. So I wanted to be validated, and so I ended up, being super insecure, relapsing. So my dad's telling me, you can go to the house, you can shower there, you can eat there, whatever, but please, whatever you do, first of all, don't go rob nobody else, don't go get in any trouble, and be out of there before your stepmom comes home. Well, of course, she found out, and she wanted me to get help. They wanted me to get help, and they knew, like, where that would lead for me. Like, they knew, me in active addiction is like, it's off to the races. Like, you don't, you're flipping a coin of what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And so she called the cops. She wanted me to get help. And cops arrested me. They charged me with a burglary at my parents' house. And I had taken a wireless keyboard that was my dad's and sold it, and some broken jewelry and pawned it. So, like, super junky stuff.
Where was all the money you were making? That was all gone?
Within a couple weeks with my ex-wife,
Yeah.
I'm talking about, I went through, I think, 20,000
On drugs, just on drugs.
in just a couple weeks time.
That's crazy.
Yeah, but I'm paying the guy to come to the house, like,
You're just throwing it out like you got it.
yeah, like, insane. And then she cut me off too, you know. Like, I blew through so, like, I was just, like, when I blow through money, like, I blow through money. And
Yeah. So you steal from your parents' house, what happens?
so they call the cops to get me help.
Your parents call the cops,
Yeah, my stepmom called the cops. Like,
and the cops find you and arrest you.
find me, they arrest me, charge me with burglary. And I sit in jail for a while.
actual
this is gonna be
for
my
that
goal.
long?
Now that it's all taped up, I can pull the acetate off the lamp and place it onto the real.
Because of your record.
Because of my record, yeah, and because of the previous. So 15 years, 15 years, 15 years. I'm like, Dad, this isn't going away. Like, my dad's like, no, it's going away. We're not going to press charges. We just want you to like
I still
try
wish
out
my
and get back to
child
where you
had
were,
15
when you were
years.
doing good. And so when he saw that they weren't coming out the 15 years, he bonds me out. And my mom goes and signs the paperwork to like not press charges. Like, no, this isn't what we wanted. You know, like the state told her that they were going to give me help in exchange for depositions. Well, when they gave depositions, the state ended up offering me 15 years. Finally, the attorney got it down to 7, and it was at the point where like I could have probably taken it to trial.
You know, if you took it to trial, your parents could have just went on stand and said you never
Trial is
burglarized the house.
scary.
Yeah, and that's what should have
Trials
happened.
are
Plus, my dad
real.
said I could have anything in the house. So even though he was an enabler, like morally, I'm 100% wrong. But criminally, like on the technicality of the law, like I really had a strong chance.
You think they were just trying to roast you at this point?
And yeah, well, I think that's what the system does anyways. But me too, because I think I was doing so much in the community with the sheriff's department and with the public defender. You know, these are elected officials. I feel like they maybe had to disassociate, you know, with me, distance themselves from me because here I am doing well, and then I relapse. And now it's like,
You're given so many chances.
yeah, given so many chances, like, gotta wear it, you know? And me feeling guilty the way I felt anyways, I was like, I was wrong, you know? So like, I'm not gonna make my parents get on the stand and testify.
Are your parents feeling guilty for calling in the first place?
My dad definitely felt horrible about the whole situation. I mean, of course they did. Like, they didn't want that to happen.
Do you think it was inevitable though? Like it would have happened either way?
It might have been worse. I might have ended up dead.
Yeah.
So,
Wow.
yeah, I feel like it may have saved my life. Even though I don't wish prison on my worst enemy, because you never know. Like you never know which way it's gonna go. You could end up getting stabbed and die in prison. You know, you just never know. But just the rate I was going, when they said 7 years, like my wife I'm with now is like, no, don't sign it. Like,
That was their first offer. This after the 15, they came to 7.
yeah.
And you ended up taking that though.
I ended up taking it because I didn't want to put my parents on the stand. And I was wrong. Like, I felt so guilty anyways because I was doing so well and then I messed up again. Like, and I was at the point, like, how does this keep happening to me? Like, how do I keep, you know, beating my head against the wall? So.
Now, when you accept the deal because you're on bond, do you self-surrender? How does that work?
Yeah,
Okay, now there are too many different patterns and shades and everything in the shirt, so I'm not gonna fully draw the shirt as it really is. It's just gonna be lines and gestures that look similar, but you know, I can't draw that deep. I could, but I'm not gonna draw that detail, especially with these carpal tunnel pins.
let me self-surrender.
So you got to, and most state cases you can't self-surrender. Normally, like when you're found guilty or whatever, they take you
Well,
away.
no, I signed a plea deal in the attorney's office, and then they gave me a court date. So
Okay.
when I went in front of the judge.
I got a
That's
song
when they
about
come to
that.
you and
Take
brought
the
me
plea.
away. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Where are
Take
you
the
sent
plea.
to for the 7-year prison sentence?
state. So everybody goes to Orlando Reception Center, and then I went to Avon Park. So I was at Avon Park for about 4 years. I got sentenced to 7 years. 7 in, 5 out.
Of probation. This is the 5 out.
5 out, yeah.
Now, were you at more of an advantage because you had already been in the system, like you knew how things kind of worked?
Yeah, I was super green my first time. The second time was worse, though.
Probably getting into more trouble now that you know how the system
I know
works
how
and
the
everything
system
like
goes.
that.
I'm getting more hardened, more desensitized, you know.
So let's talk about prison itself. What your prison experience was like.
Oh, so then he wasn't.
What was like a day in the life? What was the place like? What was the atmosphere? Who were you celled up with? Like who are you
As
around?
soon as you get off the bus at Avon Park, they say, "Welcome to Camp Cupcake."
Oh, wow.
Like, super laid back. Everybody's got phones. There's cigarettes. There's drugs. Whatever you want, there's at this camp. Like that was kind of what the reputation was. So, for me, like the first time I never got caught up in the subculture of it, but the second time I did, and again it was that seeking acceptance and validation. Like, and it was hard to be in a relationship this time because I was back with my wife, and the first time I went to prison, like there was no relationship, so you just kind of do your time and
Makes
go
it
home. But
harder.
like when you're in a
It makes it
relationship,
easier, but
while you're
harder.
incarcerated, your mind is like always on the streets and what's going on. So that was a little hard, but
Now, when you say prison camp, is this like, is it gang free, politic free? Is this a laid back
I
spot?
mean, no, there's politics anywhere you go. So it's a work camp. So it's not the way politics work at work camps is a lot different than how they work at main units. Like there's still the flow, the ecosystem, the economy, how things flow in there. But technically, like you're not allowed to join a gang at a work camp. Like you got to join a gang at a main unit or at an annex. Like there's so many different rules and structure to the politics. But yeah, I mean, there's definitely still gangs there. At that time, one of my good friends who happened to be one of the head bloods of the pound. So his wife and my wife ended up going on a cruise together and becoming really good friends through the visiting park. We both went to the visiting park every weekend. So like, he was like top dog, and he had the pound, like, with the, but he had it structured. Like, he wasn't on any of the BS. Like, there was no, you're not putting down on, white boys. Even like the chomos and stuff like that. Like,
So there were sex offenders at this camp.
a few, yeah. Not, because it's a work camp, so like, but in Florida work camps now, they're starting to let a lot more be at the work camps, but because they're going out the gate, most sex offenders can't be at work camps. But he wasn't allowing people to put down. He didn't want to stop the flow of money. So you could extort and stuff like that, but like he kept the violence down. So anytime there's structure on a pound, and you've got good politics and strong leadership on the pound, the violence is down, the BS is down. So the guards really want it that way. Because the minute the strength of the leadership leaves the pound and there's no structure, it becomes chaos.
Well, that's like what they say about the cartels and stuff, that the CIA allows certain cartels to operate and this and that because it's
Because they're going to keep the peace.
It's going to exist. It just, they want to keep the peace in that sense, like you're saying.
And with him on the pound, it was that way. Like for 4 years, I'm talking about it was like people were hanging out. Like it was literally.
No, like when you say politics, so we're not talking like government politics. Well, what do you mean
Prison
by that?
politics.
I mean, prison politics. There's codes that you go by. There's different rules for living in prison. I tell people this all the time. Like, if I'm in prison and somebody comes and takes something out of my locker, I can't go knock on the window to the officer station and be like, hey, so-and-so took this out of my locker. You know what I mean? Like, you gotta handle that. So, like, but,
If you don't, they coming for more.
just the way, there's politics in so many different ways in prison. I mean,
I'm curious about something. Do you guys knock on the table to get up out of the prison lunch table?
we do.
What's the significance behind that? Because we did that in the feds, and I was clueless as this young kid in prison when I saw that.
So the big thing with us was like reception centers where you're not allowed to talk at the table. That was kind of like your way of saying, okay, I'm out, but we
All
still
right,
did it like at the
guys.
work camp, but like our work camp was so loose that
This was interesting. I have not done this in a long time. I am done. I am done. And I never finish anything in one sitting anymore. I did when I was younger. I had the good working hands. Hold on, I'm trying to set this up so you can see that it is just not responding correctly. But I am actually done. That is Danny Collins. Project reached the world. Really, phone acting crazy. Oh, I forgot I'm doing it with the crack on my phone. So let's sign it. Oh, today is the 21st now. So let's sign it. Then 8/21/23. All right. Danny Collins. I'm gonna end it here. I'm gonna go in the room tired, but I am going to upload. Yeah, it's already uploaded because it's alive. But I'm gonna go ahead and do a TikTok showing the finished one, and then I am going to go to sleep because I got stress to deal with tomorrow. All right, it's your girl Kadlac